This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.
Support for this program comes from the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered.
Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Hello, I'm Marcia Cavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. One of LaToya Cantrell's last acts as mayor will have been to veto a budget passed by the City Council. One of her last defeats has been to see the veto overridden. That and the resumption of a road project that critics say could drain the general fund characterized the mood at City Hall. Nevertheless, there was some good news as the Sewerage and Water Board dedicated a new power system. We'll look at these stories as well as a bank purchase that could have industry repercussions, plus the election schedule for the new year, and a look at one of the last surviving toy stores are on the schedule for our Informed Sources. Errol Laborde, producer of Informed Sources, Ben Myers, staff writer, the Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Advocate, and Rich Collins, staff writer also for the Times-Picayune and the New Orleans Advocate. Going to go over to Ben because the council overrode the mayor's veto of the new city budget.
Let's just step back for just 1 second. So it's kind of unusual for a mayor to veto a city budget. Mayor Cantrell proposed a budget in October, as mayors normally do. However, the city council basically disregarded that proposal and went with a plan that incoming Mayor-elect Helena Moreno proposed. Cantrell, rather shockingly, last week came out and vetoed the budget, and she was citing a few concerns of hers, including some revenue sources that the Moreno plan is built on, or I should say is balanced by, that Cantrell said were not validated. That was obviously doomed for defeat. There was no way that the council was even going to consider that. They came back and easily overrode that veto yesterday on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. So, some of these revenue sources that you point out that, the mayor said, we're not so sure these monies are coming, but obviously the Moreno administration has more confidence that they will be.
That's right. There's about $75 million in this plan of money that hasn't been formally adopted by the city's revenue estimating conference, which it's only a suggestion anyway. But that's in part because Cantrell wouldn't even allow the revenue estimating conference to consider them. They include about half of that money, if not a little bit more, is money that is already in hand or is reasonably expected. But then there's some other sources, such as new parking enforcement that's going to require staffing up, and also reclaiming some outstanding debts from ticket holders that we'll see if it materializes. Mm-hmm. There's also this is only about $4 million, but it's kind of interesting. The city says it wrongly or paid in error taxes on the Wisner Fund that it is entitled to receive back from the IRS. That, of course, depends on the IRS agreeing and allowing that. It's also worth noting that just this week, Fitch Rating downgraded the city's credit rating, and they noted the Cantrell veto as well as Cantrell's concerns in that report. I want to be clear that they were neutral. They didn't opine on this, but they said they're within the next 6 months. Fitch said that they are going to evaluate the Moreno plan and its underlying assumptions, and it warned that additional downgrades could be coming if it doesn't see any improvement in the city's management.
So also, what about the Wisner money? And that has not been spent yet. the city is saying that, well, we can use that money, but that's going to impact a lot of different groups. Is that correct?
Well, not the Wisner. I think
It's not the Wisner. No, I'm wrong on that. It's the ARPA money.
That's right. Yeah. So there's $15 million also that in unspent federal pandemic aid money that had been allocated to some city programs and nonprofits, but it has not been spent. That Moreno wants to reallocate. Whether or not that's allowed, Cantrell believes that it's not clear, and she cited that in her veto letter. As a city lobbyist and some consultants say that yes, there has been uncertainty over the Treasury guidelines on this money. However, it is clear after some guidance that was issued this year that this is allowed. I don't know if that's a universally shared opinion. It's hard for me to sit here and say, but we will certainly find out over the next year, I'm sure.
Well, needless to say, it's going to be a challenge. Whatever is there for this incoming administration, they're going to have to pay back a loan, and so that they were able to make payroll for this year. So it's going to be really challenging.
Undoubtedly, this is an incredible challenge for Moreno to walk into. Even the $800 million budget she proposed, that's the general fund, is tight as it is, and that includes this additional $75 million. Now, she said that she's focused. She prioritized keeping. I should also mention that part of her proposal is to have some once per pay period furloughs for city employees, which is going to be painful. But she says that this is needed in order to maintain city services at an adequate level.
Because the present mayor, Cantrell, what her recommendations were, just cutting back across the board and raising taxes.
She was proposing all kinds of fee and tax raises that the council didn't act on, but that she said were necessary because our revenue outlook is really not good. And there were extreme cuts to city departments across the board in that initial proposal that Cantrell made. So I think Moreno came back and said, well, that's just too draconian and too across the board. We need to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah, and she's saying that city services will be there.
That's her objective. That's what she's saying. So we'll see. I mean, she points out the sanitation department had a huge cut under Cantrell's proposal that would have eliminated curbside recycling, for example, and she just said that was unacceptable.
Okay, well, we'll see where it goes. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Sure.
Okay, Rich, let's go on over to you because some big news in the banking industry.
That's right, yeah. Last week, everyone was talking about Phillip Rivers, the 44-year-old quarterback coming back to the NFL.
Right. So
this week in New Orleans, it was Darryl Byrd, who's a very well-respected banker. He built Iberia Bank from a small South Louisiana bank into essentially a regional powerhouse from over a 20-year span. And then Iberia Bank was purchased by First Horizon back in 2020. So some of those Iberia execs went to First Horizon. Some, like Darryl Byrd, served as on the board for a few years. He essentially has been pseudo-retired for a few years, but he said to me this week that he failed miserably at retirement. He's 71 years old. He said he's got a lot of energy left. He loved what he did for Iberia, which was grow it by over 22 acquisitions. So he acquired 22 banks over that 20-year period. And so he basically, it's like getting the band back together. It was a bombshell. We had to sort of protect this story over a few days because there are some sensitivities involved. Basically, he's got an investment group together, an acquisition group that's many of his old Iberia Bank lieutenants who have gone all in. They've raised money of their own and outside money to acquire MC Bank, which was originally Morgan City Bank and Trust. It's a small bank. It's, I think, the 50th biggest bank in the state. It's got assets of less than about $480 million, 10 branches. But what Darryl Byrd says is he wants to raise a bunch of money over the next few months, close the deal, and grow that bank through all means. So bringing a bunch of business from bringing in business and maybe some acquisitions.
And so, Go ahead, E. Go ahead.
I remember when Iberia Bank first appeared, and it just seemed as a small bank in New Iberia. Who cares, all right? It became a real juggernaut.
Right.
I mean, it was really something that was very impressive to see. So, would we expect the same thing from MC Bank, or?
Well, I will say this, that I talked to a bunch of several other bankers and then other industry observers, and everybody says Darryl Byrd sees things that other people don't see. He has a gift for this, so people are excited to see what happens. I talked to another bank president in town of a large bank, the biggest bank in New Orleans, and I thought, oh, this person might think this is competition, this is bad. Not at all. This banker said this is great for the city. It's more bank jobs. Basically there's a sense that there's a gap in the market for banks, smaller banks, where you can actually talk to the people in charge. So we've got a lot of these bigger national banks that have presence here, but it's going to be difficult to get to say Jamie Dimon from Chase.
Yeah.
But in this case,
it might be a little difficult, to get to him personally.
Unless you're
right?
Gail Benson, is what someone said to me. So. Anyhow, so yeah, there seems to be a lot of excitement. There's challenges though. Right now, banks are cheap to acquire. Investors have been sort of sour on banks for a decade or so. There's for a few reasons: lower returns. There was the big failure from California that people are a little bit cautious about banks. So you can get them for a good price, but also it's expensive to run a bank these days. The technology involved to do everything that a customer wants.
Yeah.
It's expensive. The fraud protection is expensive.
Yeah.
And then also just keeping up with regulations is expensive.
So, additional worries that perhaps didn't exist 20 years ago when he
It's-
began to grow Iberia Bank.
Right. So it's a different landscape. But I don't know. The sense I got from talking to people this week was intrigue and just sort of excitement about the deal.
And so, okay, and once again, E, go ahead.
For a long time, it was illegal for banks to operate outside of their own parish. And so, like in New Orleans, you had the Whitney, Hibernia, but they couldn't go outside of New Orleans.
Right.
And then, like, sometime in the 80s, they passed multi-parish banking. And that changed everything.
Right.
That allowed everybody to go everywhere else and then to play, and the whole banking industry changed. And you look back at it, it was a good move.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to see. Obviously, everyone's watching to see if MC Bank can follow a trajectory. I'll just say one funny comment that I heard from a source this week, that there's a lot of smaller banks that would be happy to be acquired right now, and this person he called them pound puppy banks because they'd be very excited if they saw Darryl Byrd and his team walk through the front door.
So when will we see MC Bank here?
So the MC Bank does have it has a location in Jefferson Parish. There's one on Harrison Avenue right now.
Okay.
And 2 in Jefferson Parish, but there's plans for 3 new branches, 1 on the North Shore, 1 potential uptown, and I think 1 in Homa. So it's 10 now, 13 soon.
All right. Good luck to him.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
fun.
Thanks a lot, Rich. Back over to you, Ben. Road work in Orleans Parish. It's on, it's off. It's on, it's off. What's happening with it?
Okay, just by way of quick background, the city under former Mayor Mitch Landrieu struck a settlement deal with FEMA for $1.7 billion stemming from Hurricane Katrina for a massive roads overhaul. To get that money, the city has to spend it by FEMA's deadline, and the deadline has been extended numerous times. The latest deadline is December 31st, and there remains...
Of this year.
Of this year, so 12 days from now. There remains several hundred, maybe about $500 million that the city could access, but it has to get that from the state agency that controls it. Point being, there are a number of projects that are in progress right now, and the FEMA deadline is coming up. And while Mayor Cantrell requested an extension back in August, there's just no telling if that will come or what the answer might be. So they essentially they could be stranded. Now, the plan was, as of last week, to issue suspend work notices or stop work notices to the contractors because there's no money to pay for them. And then this week, she said no. Keep working. We're not going to do that. It's going to be on incoming Mayor Helena Moreno to make that call.
Okay, and so that really surprised some council members now who are, as I said, rather surprised to hear that, but also it's a concern in terms of the loan that the city had to make from the state in order to make payroll. Explain that.
Well, those two issues are maybe not as correlated as we thought before. It's kind of hard to say, actually. The auditor, Mike Wagasback, said that he, in his looking at the city finances, the city did come out of its general fund to front some costs while it was waiting for the last extension, but then had that money replenished by loan draws. And then he said that actually did not cause the cash shortage and the payroll crisis. But moving forward, he is saying that he may not allow additional draws on this payroll fund because if the city has to come out of pocket for road expenses.
For road expenses,
Yeah.
that we're not 100% sure the money will actually be coming in to pay for that.
That's right.
Now, of course, there are people in our community who are now living amid, road construction sites, some of whom can't even get to their homes. They want to see this road stuff done.
Yeah, there's just no good answers for these folks. Either the work continues and there's no way to pay it, and there's a bunch of lawsuits, or the work is stranded. I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Hopefully FEMA will come through with this extension, or the city will find alternative funding.
What a situation, huh?
It's incredible, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot, Ben. E, over to you. What elections are coming up in our new year?
Yeah, the new year is going to be the so-called off year. Every 4 years we have the off-year election. The off-year election is the year between the two presidential elections. It's a federal election year, except you're not electing president, but all of Congress is up for re-election, and 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election. It's kind of a rotation on the Senate. Now, it doesn't happen that all of Congress is defeated and changed. I mean, most of them are re-elected, but there are always some changes, and there's a big impact and a big interest there because right now in the House of Representatives, there are 220 Republicans and 215 Democrats. We have an incredible situation in Louisiana where the Speaker of the House is from Louisiana, and so is the House Majority Leader. And so that would be Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise. And so not only, then both of them are probably essential re-election to their own House seat. There's no issue there. But they are, more than anybody else, affected by what the rest of the nation does because they could lose their power bases if it goes Democrat. Most of the time, people say, the Republicans are pretty safe. But the last few weeks, people have been seeing some movement in the Democratic Party. It seems to be kind of like an anti-Trump movement. And some people are saying that the Democrats are getting a little bit more powerful. And so that's going to be the big political story in terms of will the Democrats gain the majority in the House? And then if so, that means that our two national guys, they're still in Congress, but they're going to lose their high office. So that's going to be pretty important. I don't think the two local members of Congress are Steve Scalise from the Metairie area and Troy Carter. I don't think they're in trouble. I don't think any of our current House members are in trouble. The other thing in Louisiana is that we're modifying the election law. And in some elections, we're going back to something that's the old system where you had party primaries. You had one set of primaries for the Democrats, another for the Republicans, and then the winners would meet. Well, that was done away with into what's called a jungle primary, with everybody running in the same pot. But they're going back for some elections, including Congress, I think Public Service Commission, to the old system. So we're going to be seeing that. And voters are going to be getting a lot of voter information from the Secretary of State's office. They already are trying to educate them and saying, by the way, the system's going to change. But we'll see it first in May. That's when the primary is for those elections. In New Orleans, something else that's going to happen is that there are fairly soon in February, there are 3 local legislative districts that are vacant at the moment. One's a Senate district, and that was held by Senator Joseph Bowie, who got a university job. And there's 2 House districts, which were evacuated because of somebody being elected to a higher office. So there's 3 special elections in February, which will affect the legislature. So this could be politics, not as dramatic a politics as electing a mayor or governor, but this could be a busy year.
All right, we're also awaiting a Supreme Court decision on our congressional seat. 6th
Yeah,
congressional
yeah.
district too.
Yeah,
so.
the Supreme Court decision, which could affect the way that those districts are drawn.
All right, Ian, thanks a lot. All righty, Ben, back over to you. One more city thing, and that is Sewerage and Water Board new power station.
Yes, this
Power
has been in the
complex.
works for quite some time. Most people will know, or anyone who follows the Sewerage and Water Board has had their streets flooded, that the Sewerage and Water Board's power sources for its drainage pumps are incredibly outdated and fail all the time. So they've been working on this power complex that will basically modernize those power sources for years, and through all kinds of complications and political arguments and funding failures, have almost completed it. There is still some work left to do, but at this point, they're able to supply about half of the old part of the drainage system with this new power complex, and the rest should be coming online hopefully within the next 4 to 5 months.
And so there has to be some testing and stuff too. I mean,
Yeah.
and this is for drainage now. This is all for the drainage area. We're not
Just for
talking
drainage
about
and just for the old drainage pumps.
tap water.
That's right. So they also want to connect this to the tap water pumps in a second phase, but the funding for that part has just not come through. There's been multiple times that they've hoped to get that from the legislature in the capital outlay bill, but for various reasons that has failed or not happened. Governor Landry last year said that he was going to allocate some federal funding to that, but that grant, and this was 15 months ago, has not been executed. So we don't really know what's going to happen with that.
So this power plant basically is there just to try to have a more obviously consistent source of power for the pumps that drain the water out of the city streets when there's a heavy rain.
That's right. So there are a number of reasons why the city's streets flood constantly, and power sources are a big one of them. However, it should be noted that there are other reasons, and one of them is that the system itself is not designed to handle this type of rainfall that we are seeing recently, and the officials at S&WB will be careful to note that this type of rainfall will continue to overwhelm the system. So we will have more and better power, but we could very well still see street flooding.
But having a better power source certainly is good news.
Absolutely. There is nothing wrong with that.
Because those turbines just, have turned out to be just not too very reliable. They're old. They've done their work.
Does that mean these turbines will eventually just be decommissioned, removed, and gone?
So there's two really problematic ones remaining. One is gone, or is going to be gone very soon.
Okay.
Another one is being held as a backup source, which is, maybe not ideal, but is necessary.
Well, it's always good. I mean, look at what happened in Hurricane Ida. Our grid went down. So
That's right. Yeah, we got to have, and they've got a brand new turbine coming in too to help out. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that is good news.
Yeah.
All right, Ben, thank you. Okay,
Sure.
we're going to wrap up on some really, really nice news because you did just a wonderful piece on a toy store that has been around for generations now, a long time. Le Jouet out there on Airline Drive. That was a great story.
Yeah, it's so Le Jouet is really one of a kind at this point. It's definitely the last big toy store in our area, and it's really survived against all trends, right? I mean, so with the advent of online shopping over the last 25 years, we've seen the demise of Toys R Us, KB Toys, any of these big retailers, and independent stores like Le Jouet have fared better because they can do things like offer wrapping. They can curate carefully for their neighborhood. They can help people choose gifts. So they've survived better. But locally, we've lost several this year, and so Le Jouet is sort of the last toy store standing.
And it's wonderful. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's just a delightful place with wonderful toys. And as the owner points out, maybe not less expensive than what you would find on Amazon, but you can find it there and have, personal interaction and gift wrapping also, which is just a really, really big deal.
Well, it's fun. I did for the story. I didn't end up using the quote in the story, but I talked to this woman who runs like the Independent Toy Association for the country, and she said that wrapping is literally what's keeping all these stores alive. But at Le Jouet, they do about 40+% of their annual revenue Christmas time, but the rest of the year it's people running in on Friday or Saturday, like with 5 minutes to spare on their way to a birthday party. And they, please help me choose a gift and please wrap it. And that's the
I've done
business.
that. That's definitely, I mean, LaToya has always been there. And of course, bicycles. It's a great place to go buy a bike.
Good point, yeah. But so bikes from the very beginning, I didn't know this, when that tour store opened right around 1968, there was this bike craze that consumed the country. I didn't know this. 10 speeds was this newfangled thing. So the bike craze really helped them launch, and he says bikes still are a big part of the business. It's the minority of the business, but it's still a big part of it.
So he's still there. Buddy is the owner, right?
Buddy Wood, Elton Buddy Wood Jr. He's 81 years old, and he's still there. He's been there for 57 years.
Wow.
And he was funny. He was kind of reluctant to talk too much about it. I could tell he didn't want to take too much credit. And he also didn't want to make too many promises about what's going to happen, just because the industry itself is challenged, and he might want to do something else at some point.
All right, so if you still need to do your toy shopping for your kiddos, Lose Your Way is a place to go.
Yeah,
it's a
great.
good place to go, yeah, and you'll enjoy the whole experience too. All right, Rich, thanks a lot. Okay, guys, let's talk about some other stories coming up. B?
The Downtown Development District has established a light enhancement program. And already in place, there's a building in the Bio Innovation Center that has just got a new lighting makeover. But in the works is, if you know the Molly Marine statue, they're making that into a Molly Marine Plaza, which by the summer should have lighting paid for by the legislature. And so that should be a nice addition along Elks Place.
Sounds
Cool.
great. All right, Ben, over to you.
The anniversary of the Bourbon Street attack is coming up, and we will be looking at some of the lessons learned and what measures the city has taken since then.
Okay. Rich, over to you.
I just wrote a fun one for today about all of the crazy Tulane Greenway fans getting ready to head north to Oxford this weekend. Literally people are renting buses, chartering Sprinter vans, getting on private planes. There's just going to be this kind of wave headed to Oxford. And it's happening now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can understand why, too. This is really significant. Big game.
First ever college football playoff appearance. They are, I haven't checked today, but they were 17-point, more or less, underdogs. They lost, 45-10 last time. But a lot of believers, when you play a team the second time, you've had a chance to study their game. So people are very excited.
And if Ole Miss wins, they're going to be in the Sugar Bowl, so those same people can come back here and spend money here.
Exactly. We'll trade off, yeah.
All right, roll wave.
Yes.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for being here. Thank you all for joining us. Happy holidays to everybody. Have a wonderful week. See you next week.
Informed Sources is made possible in part by Susie and Pierre G. Villery.
We count on Informed Sources to continue the discussion on important local issues.
It's where our top journalists discuss stories they've covered.
Stay informed with Informed Sources.
Support for this program comes from the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation, committed to funding educational causes.
This program is brought to you in part by the Eugenie and Joseph Jones Family Foundation, a local foundation proud to support education, the arts, and culture in the greater New Orleans area.